Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are psychologist Dr. Debra Mandel and numerologist astrologer Christopher Power. Author, speaker, psychologist Dr. Debra Mandel has helped people with relationship struggles, depression, anxiety, stress, eating disorders, and all the other problems that plague our general life. Debra was born and raised in Los Angeles. She attended the University of Santa Barbara and earned a Bachelor of Arts from Cal State Northridge. She went on to get her master's and her doctorate at the California School of Professional Psychology, now called Alliant University. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
It sounds that from your education, you always wanted to be in this profession.
I think I wanted to be in this profession from the time I was 12.
Oh,
I actually remember being at one of my parents' cocktail parties at home, and you know how the adults will always come up to you and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a psychologist. And they say, well, how do you know you want to be a psychologist?
Right.
And they would say, what about being a psychiatrist? I said, I don't want to get a medical degree. I want to be a psychologist.
Oh, you
And
knew.
it's because I always drew in. It was like, you know, the Charlie Brown with the putting up the little 5-cent,
Right.
you know. I was the girl in the neighborhood that everybody seemed to come to because I was compassionate and sensitive, and I was always picking up wounded kitties and, you know, always bringing them home. Mommy, help fix this, you know, because I wanted to take care of things. So yeah, I just...
So you went straight through school doing what
Never thought about it twice, just knew what I wanted to do.
And then how did you start your practice?
Well, I started by doing a lot of...
5 cents.
5 cents, that's right,
Therapy.
Actually started working in residential treatment centers for adolescents who had been removed from homes for sexual abuse
like a
residential clinics. But
clinic.
basically, clinics are hospital settings, but residential treatment centers where these boys and girls would be removed from their homes, and they were off the streets now, and they were living there, and they were on probation or part of Department of Mental Health. You know, really sad stories, a lot of these kids.
So out of school you go into something like that, basically?
Yes,
Is
and
that
part
what
of
a
it is because I
psychologist-
was so young. You know,
Oh.
when I was seeing adults, I was only 21 years old. I got out of, so I started doing internships when I was in graduate school.
I
So I was a baby, and
But
so teenagers
also-
was a good fit for me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they
Yeah.
could respect you, and you
Right.
could also do your work.
Right.
And
then-
because who wants to hear a 21-year-old tell me what to do?
Yeah, I could tell you stories about people who would walk in the clinics I was working at, you know, somebody in their 50s and I'm 23 and just looking at me on site and saying, how are you going to be able to help me?
Right.
And, you know, being able to say, well, because I do still have resources, and sometimes, you know, you can learn more from someone younger than you can from somebody
So did
older.
you keep them?
Yes,
did they
sometimes.
keep them in there?
Some.
Or did they just get huffy and walk out?
It depended, you know. But as I got more respect and I did more work, and as I got more into the field and developed a private practice and started bringing in
That's what I was
clients and
wondering.
stuff. Yeah.
Private practice, how do you start that?
Well, usually you start with a supervisor who helps refer people to you, and then you start networking in the community, and you continue to network in areas of specialty. My specialty that I started out with was eating disorders, and so I contacted a lot of dentists and pediatricians and people who might be the first ones who would spot the eating disorder and need to have somebody to refer them to.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
And then also working in the clinics like you were with children, you
Right.
had that kind of,
Yeah.
you could probably see. Did you have eating disorders in the clinics?
Yeah, but their problems were even deeper and bigger than that for the most part. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
We talked about helping with depression and anxiety. you had those kind of patients as teenagers or as
Yeah,
older
and then
people?
eventually I started to work more with adults as well. So now my practice includes both from, I would say, 10 or 11 all the way up through the lifespan, all the way through geriatrics. And I do a lot of couples work now. Mostly I focus on relationships.
So that's what we were talking about, relationships. And what are some of the problems? You've written about dump that chump,
That's
but
right.
Is that how it came about?
Well, Dump That Chump came about from my history of experiences with chumps as well. In my teenage years and early 20s, I was definitely the chump magnet. Go into a room with 100 people, 3 chumps, they were all around me. They found me.
But that wasn't your first book.
No, first book was called Healing the Sensitive Heart.
Okay, and tell me about that a little bit.
That's basically how to stop getting hurt by carrying old wounds from childhood. We will continue to replay those in our adult relationships with people, in our love relationships, and in our personal and professional relationships.
And can that be mother, father, brother, sister?
Yes, bully on the schoolyard even, or a teacher
Yeah.
who mistreated you. So some form of mistreatment, if we have emotional wounds from that, then by the time we are an adult, if we haven't healed them, we're going to end up with a lot of craziness in our relationships, trying to get people to make up for what we didn't get and having unrealistic expectations.
So healing the sensitive heart is about relationships too, like Dump That Chump.
Yes, all relationships. My second book is called Your Boss Is Not Your Mother, 8 Steps to Eliminating Office Drama. And again, we will take those same emotional wounds and we will replay those in the workplace with our coworkers, with our bosses, with our employees, if we don't fix them.
And what do we think? We want to always go to the boss because he'll fix it for us or
Yes,
not?
yeah,
do
well,
we look to him as a figure?
Yes,
a
a father figure or a mother figure, and we will be insulted if we're criticized because, you're supposed to love me and think I'm terrific and be the parent maybe that I never got.
Oh, that's what I wondered. Is
Yeah.
that what that book is about?
Yes, it's on how to stop recreating that energy in the workplace and becoming professional so that you're not going to the workplace like a child waiting to be taken care of, but as the full professional that your boss expects you to be.
And how do we do that? I love this
Well,
laugh.
get the book and you'll get 8 steps on how to eliminate office drama.
Oh, that's easy.
it, yes.
And also, the sensitive heart, will that tell us what to look for that actually happened to us? Like if the teacher said, you got an F today or something like that?
Yes, in a lot of my writings, what I do is I try to help people understand the history of their issues, but then I immediately get people into the present because it's in the present that we can make changes. We can't change the past. We can only change what we're doing about it in the present. So most of my work is always focused on getting people into the here and now and making a positive difference with their lives.
So Dump That Chump is written just the way you're talking to me now. There's no fancy doctor
No.
talk. There's nothing. It's like no nonsense, right?
Right. My editor said that when she read it first from HarperCollins, she said it was like sitting with a best friend or a coach on the couch going through something that was really painful and hard and feeling like I was there with you in your pain, but also moving you through it really quickly, which is what I wanted to do because believe me, like I said, I know what it's like to go through that.
I think one of the great things was you said, like, get rid of him. He's like the flu. You don't want it. So, I mean, it was
Exactly.
like true stuff. Interesting way to handle things.
A lot of the times the way we perceive a loss has everything to do with how we feel about it. And if you perceive that you've lost something precious, then you're likely to feel really bad about it. But when you're dumping a chump, you're not losing a beautiful set of pearls. You're getting rid of a bad cold.
That's just it. So you're getting rid of bad cold.
Right.
And you also have common reasons why people stay in that area.
Yes, people stay in these kinds of relationships because they have low self-esteem. They're too afraid to move on. They fear the unknown. They're afraid to be alone. They think nobody's ever going to love them. And those are the things, those are the holes. I call those self-esteem holes that really need to be filled up with self-love and positive self-care.
And you you guide
Yes.
the reader how to boost their self-esteem
Yep.
and how to follow that 9-step plan. The other one was 8 steps. This one's 9
The
steps.
first one was 11 steps. The second one was 8 steps, and this is 9
And
steps.
so these 9 steps, you go through the book and
Uh-huh.
you tell us what we should do. The other thing is we're all looking for love. Okay, what's love? Is it chemistry? That's one of the things you write about.
Yes, in the beginning of the book, I have a whole thing about Cupid's mission.
Oh, right,
and
I was
when
gonna say.
Yes, and when Cupid goofs, because sometimes Cupid goofs. And a
Right.
lot of women put way too much stock, men too, way too much stock in chemistry and not enough stock in what is really going to be the positive, nurturing substance of a relationship. Chemistry's good. I am all for chemistry. I think that most relationships, if there's no chemistry, doesn't work out that well.
How does it work?
But it doesn't need to be that anxiety-ridden chemistry that so many people confuse with love, where you're fearing rejection and abandonment, and you're trying to get somebody to love you who really doesn't give a darn about you.
Well, I thought the funny thing was you told like some really awful stories about Cupid.
Oh, I did. Did you like that? Yes, yes. Well, because you know what, I went on the internet and I started to do some studying about mythology and how Cupid was, and I said, by the time I had read all this, I concluded he was like a misbehaving teenager who created a lot of dysfunction. When you actually read the story, this is not a smart, intelligent being who's putting together people who are really compatible.
And so in keeping with that, you say, and you tell us, accept our own screw-ups.
Yes,
because we all screw up,
right.
I guess.
We love to point the finger. When we're breaking up in a relationship, we like to say it's all him or it's all her. And the reality is that in any relationship, you did have a part in it not working out. The biggest part may be that you allowed yourself to be a doormat. But if you're allowing yourself to be a doormat, then that's your responsibility. It's not somebody else's responsibility to create the boundaries for you. It's up to you to do that.
So and before we leave, a way to get rid of Mr. Dead End, Mr. Putz, Mr. Wrong. What was the other one? Mr. Bad Guy.
Yes.
You said we have a need, N-E-E-D. You took it down like that. And then for each thing, you talked about what N and E and D were.
And now I can't quite remember.
I had them all done. But that's right. They're at the end, and they're like the secret.
Oh, you mean how we're going to create a positive relationship?
Yes.
Oh, we have to write down our needs. You know, what are
That's
our
what
needs,
it is, right.
our expectations, the energy we're creating, and what we desire. And you know, I use a lot of acronyms in there, so now I can't remember all of each of them.
But that's part of it, right?
Yes,
Writing things down.
Making
you say
a non-negotiable list of the things that are really important to you is what's critical in being able to find Mr. Right. Because otherwise, we sell ourselves short, and we don't even see the good people when they're right in front of us.
Mr. Right instead of Mr. Wrong.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Let's go for the
Where'd
right.
you go for all those names? How'd you find all those things? Where you and you tell little stories.
I tell
about
a lot
your
of stories
people,
because
right?
I have worked
about your clients.
Yes, but they're always they're completely
names.
disguised, different names. Absolutely, yes. So nobody's anonymity, and sometimes they're little blends. You know, so and so's this structure from this person, but this experience from this person, because it's all the same. I mean, in the end, when people are hurting and they're in lousy relationships, they're similar. They have similar experiences and similar feelings.
And when I was reading this, I thought it was the same as with any other kind of problem. Maybe love problem, no. Maybe problem at work, yes. Maybe this, maybe that. It really helps you be a better person.
Yes, because the whole goal is that you want positive relationships in all areas of your life, not just with your lover or your romantic partner, but also with your friends and your coworkers and all that stuff. And so you can even think about this as if you're in a good love relationship, but you have a difficult time with a friend, dump that chump.
That's exactly, I agree with that. And thank you so much for coming on. And stay tuned because numerologist, astrologer Christopher Power will be here. She gave me the wrap, and I'm going like... Welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Life consultant, lecturer, trainer, numerologist, astrologer, seminar leader, and author, Christopher Power was born and raised in Australia. He has a Bachelor of Science with honors in geology and geophysics. He studied with Indian mystics and spiritual leaders. He's worked with kahunas in Hawaii, Aborigines in Australia, and business people in the US and Europe. I think today we'll go quickly through that list, Christopher, and talk about each thing. And so welcome to America.
Well, thank you. I feel very welcome here.
And tell us what a life consultant does, or what you do as a life consultant.
Well, my primary focus is to show people what's great about them. That's the bottom line. There's plenty of people showing people how to fix the things that are wrong and what's wrong with them and how to improve in that. I found I had a real gift for showing people what was magnificent, what was great about them. And when they've got a future like that to look forward to, or talents within themselves to develop like that, it makes all the other healing stuff move much more quickly.
So it gives you confidence and builds
absolutely.
our self-esteem. But even if we don't have self-esteem, you find something good within us?
Well, self-esteem comes from honouring who you are. And if you don't know what you're capable of, it's hard to build self-esteem.
Oh, I see. So you point out what you're capable
Absolutely.
of. I got it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and as a lecturer?
A lecturer, I've done teaching in the past, but now I run seminars.
Yes, that's a seminar leader, lecturer,
Yeah.
that goes together. Tell us about those, because you run relationship seminars.
Yeah, well, it all started with the numerology.
Oh.
And out of the blue, in 3 months, I went from knowing nothing about it to being a full-time professional. I reinvented the whole field and took it to a much more professional and powerful and accurate level.
But those were within the seminar?
Well, from that, I realised I had to
I
teach
see.
people about this, and
see.
I mean, I loved it so much, I wanted to. And once you understand the numbers of anything, like you would know in accounting or business, everything else changes. So I was able to design new forms of numerology that had never been used before.
Oh, that's what you were, yeah.
A whole new outlook on relationships, a whole new outlook on legends, such as the legend of King Arthur, and other things like astrology and the Enneagram.
But so as you were giving these workshops,
Yep.
you started developing all this other
Well, it was-
material that you were just told us about.
Well, as I developed that material, I had to start teaching it, so I created seminars as I was going along.
As you went along. When you were working on relationships in that field, how did you work? Then you must have brought numerology into everything, I guess.
Well, there's a beautiful story about
Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I was walking along the road on a place in Australia called the Gold Coast, a very sunny day, and I had this extremely unprofessional thought that how could I create instant rapport with a woman I met at a party in 5 seconds? And I went, well, I don't know whether that's noble, but let's have a look at it. And I said, well, the bottom line, any two people can get along if they can resolve their differences. And I went, oh, so what's an easy way to find their differences? Well, it's easy to find their astrological sign.
Right.
Okay, so what does that help you with? Well, each sign goes from 1 to 12, Aries 1, Taurus 2, etc. So if you take somebody's sun sign and your sun sign and work out the difference between you, and I'm a Sagittarian, and Joan, you're a
Pisces.
Pisces. Pisces is the 12th sun sign. Sagittarius is the 9th. What's the difference between 9 and 12?
Well, what did we say?
3.
Yes.
And I went,
so 3?
it couldn't be that easy. And then I looked at it and I looked at it and it worked. Like you and I think and communicate differently.
But what does the 3 do?
Well, the 3 indicates that we are different in the way we think and communicate.
Oh, I see what the 3 is that we're different.
Yeah, we're different in the way we think and communicate.
Well, then how do we get along?
Well, we take the time to connect when we're communicating. When I'm talking, you tend to be going, and when you talk, I tend to be. So what I did, as I mentioned to you once when I met you, in a relationship like that, you can hold each other's hand.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
You mean so we don't just go
No,
spacey,
no.
right?
Oh yeah, what are you talking about?
Right.
And then if that doesn't work or it's inappropriate in a business meeting, we just connect eye to eye. And from that moment on, we adjust our communication until we start creating new forms of communication, new ways of relating that excite both of us and bring us together, actually physically move us together.
So how do we do that? If you meet somebody at a cocktail party, what do you have to find out to get her number?
Basically,
Oh, you just need the astrology,
absolutely.
don't you?
I know my sun sign.
So when you go around the list, and then
Yep.
you get that person's sun sign, and those are just numbers.
Yep. It's a simple, I mean, it was so obvious and simple I thought it couldn't work. I've done it with thousands of people and it works over and over again.
So is that information in action, attraction, integration?
No, that's a whole other book and a
Oh,
whole
it
other
is?
seminar that I'm creating at the moment.
Oh, it is. So it's not in there.
No.
So you don't know what those numbers mean. You have to get the new, you have to see your new thing.
Well, then what happened with the book is that the book set the framework, the underlying principles of how to work with numbers in a way that works, not the way that's fluffy or alternative or not
Right.
practical. Once I had that, I was able to create new systems.
So next step, business,
Yeah.
investors and spirituality. That's
Yeah.
another section.
It's a whole
What do we
area.
do with that?
Well, once you've got the numbers to anything, as anyone in accounting or business or venture capitalism will tell you, the numbers never lie. If you look at the numbers in any context, in any situation in a business, if you understand what the number represents with a birth date or their Enneagram drive or whatever, you start being able to see how people operate, and you start being able to see how to treat them, how to bring the very best out of them, how to inspire them, what gifts they bring to the business. You can find the right place where each person belongs.
So you want a numerologist to come in and work with those people or see what those people are, so that the board that you're working together with or the boss knows what to get from them or how to bring the best out of them?
Well, that's what you do with your finances. You get an accountant to look at the finances and make sure everything's clicking. If you don't, things, you'll get money leaking here, nothing will, eventually the business will be in trouble.
So it's the same kind of...
Same thing, but you're dealing with people. So you need to treat it with even more respect and more dignity, because you're dealing with people's essential dignity. And when you bring that out and everyone starts working together, knowing that they're getting what they need out of the business and they're using their talents in the way that's suited to them, then incredible magic happens.
Then how does the spirituality come into it?
Spirituality, I have a simple definition for spirituality. It's your relationship with your creator. It's not about being religious. That's a form of spirituality. But each person needs to have a relationship with something greater than themselves.
Because it's something to look up to? Because it's something to believe in?
Something to draw upon. Something inspiring, something powerful, something that they know respects and loves them from a true point. And we create a relationship, like an atheist's relationship with their creator is, you don't exist.
Okay.
But a more productive relationship is, there is something greater than me. And I would like to find a way that I enjoy relating to you, so that it's productive, so that I'm inspired, so that I've got energy, so that I can focus my strengths and talents into something that's greater than just self-satisfaction, while at the same time fully satisfying myself doing that.
Yeah, I see. You mentioned Enneagram. Is that how you say it?
The Enneagram.
How do you say it?
It's the Enneagram.
Enneagram. What does that mean?
It's a 9-part system that was created a long, long time ago. And a lot of people use it to describe your personality type.
Oh, that's in this book.
No.
That's
in another book. That's the next book.
I can't believe it. I did read this book, but I've read all the material on you too, so I think I'm bringing everything together and sticking it all in this book.
Well, this is the beginning of 5 or 6 different books and several movies.
Oh, okay.
So
several movies. Okay, we're there.
We're on the edge.
So it's like old
It's a very ancient system, but what it really does is it describes what drives a person. And if you know what drives a person, you know what motivates them.
But what happens? All this other stuff comes into your background. So you might think I am a 6. Okay, you think I'm a 6, but what about all the baggage that I've brought into being a 6?
Well, as I said, most people hang on to baggage when there's not something better to reach for. If I can show you what's great about you, what you can reach for that's natural for you, people are much more excited about releasing their baggage. A lot of the problems with...
right, because they don't want, there's something new
there's
to
something
go
better.
Carry.
Look at a child, if they've got a sandwich that they've dropped in the dirt and you try and take it off them, they won't let it go.
Yeah.
But what you do with a child is you get a plate full of beautiful biscuits or sandwiches, and they'll drop that and reach for something greater.
For something else.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have you as a trainer also.
Yeah.
In what respect is that? You mean physical trainer?
I train people how to use numbers to get the best out of anything that they're doing, their business, their relationship, their sport, they're raising their children, you name it.
Okay, and as an astrologer, how accurate is that compared to numerology, which you think is very accurate?
Numerology, if you want to get to the essence of something, to the bones, right to the core of something, numerology cuts to the quick. If you want to flesh it out and see the detail, and see how it, it's like the muscles in our body. Fleshing it out, that's the astrology. But always in maths and physics, maths is always the first. Numerology and astrology, numerology is the first.
And so how, knowing all of this information, and fleshing it out and cutting to the bone, is that going to help us in our life?
Absolutely. In fact, why I do it is because I love it and it's fun. And when people know what's great about them and are able to enjoy that, they have a lot more fun.
People say it's quackery. You talk about crystals. I mean, numbers, the stars, rocks. You were a geologist. And as I said, crystals, I mean, is it quackery?
When it's used in a way that says this is better than science, it can become quackery.
It can
and
be.
so can science.
So can science.
Absolutely, it becomes self-righteous. But when you take a scientific approach and combine it with an alternative approach and blend them together so that there's the accuracy of science and the preciseness and the practicality of science with the holistic vision and the understanding of nature and the way things work that the alternative view creates, then you create something new, something that's the best of both worlds.
So you're mixing holistic, you're mixing the numbers, you're mixing your knowledge and bringing like a new what kind of medicine?
A new magic.
A new magic, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And in this book, let's talk about the book just for a minute. Action, attraction, integration. I know you do names. You take the name and use the number, or your birth date and use the number, and you explain how to do that in the book. And I know you took my birth date and you added it, and I came to a 6.
Yeah.
Right? And then you did something else.
Yeah.
That you talked about the numbers that were left out.
The ones that were missing, the invisible. See, in numerology in the past, people have always added up, say, the birth date,
right,
and said, you come to a 6. Well, you're not a 6, you're a human being. But the 6 describes a very specific part of you. And the first thing I realised, you have to get the context accurate first. Then the number means something. But then the second thing was that the numbers that aren't in your birth date are just as important as the numbers that are.
And that's what you've discovered.
Well, I discovered that. People have vaguely mentioned it in the past, but I worked with it at such a depth that I found that those numbers are not only as important as the ones, they're more important. And just like we have a physical body, but there's a whole invisible part of us. And when that dies, when that leaves, the body's not much chop. So each of them is important. One to show you what you do, and one to show you what you attract, what you allow. And there's all this talk about attraction, the laws of attraction, this type of thing. These numbers describe how you attract.
Those are the left out numbers.
Yes. The invisible, the space between the leaves.
I see.
But then the key to it is take it one step further, and how do you integrate the two so they both work together?
Well, that's what you have to do.
The male, the female, and how do they create magic together?
And that's what you've done so well. Thank you for explaining all of this. It's like, it's still a mystery to me. But when I talk to you, it all starts to come clear.
It does. It's so new and it's so cutting edge that the next 30 years of my life, I'll be basing myself here and traveling around the world teaching this.
Oh, great. Thank you so much,
My
Christopher,
pleasure.
being here. And thank you. Email me, jaquinn1@aol.com, and keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, LA 90017. We'll see you next time. Bye.